When you're thirsty, what's the only thing that satisfies you? I mean, when you're really, really thirsty, what is it that's going to satisfy the thirst that you have inside of you? There's a little boy that was thirsty one night and his dad told him that he could have anything to drink at all. He had to go to bed, and he kept yelling back at his dad, "Dad, can I have a drink of water? I'm thirsty." And his dad said, "No, go to sleep." And each time became more forceful. And finally, when the little boy said, "Can I have a drink of water?" Dad went to the foot of the stairs and said, "I told you no. If I have to come up here, I'm going to spank you." A few moments later, the little boy said, "Dad, when you come up here to spank me, could you bring me a drink of water?" What satisfies us when we're thirsty? You see, one of the things that in our society that I see over and over again is the fact that we expect material things to satisfy spiritual needs. And it doesn't work that way. You know, years ago I worked at Kmart in Danville. I was a manager of a big building supplies department. And all these people that would come and think, boy, if I can just get my house redecorated the way I want, I'll be happy. If I could just have this, I'll be happy. If I could just buy this. I mean, isn't our whole society based on consumerism? And these people telling you on the TV, if you buy our product, I keep hearing this all the time, it's going to change your life. You know how many of those things I got sitting on my counter? No, I'm just kidding. We look for material things, physical things, to take care of spiritual thirst. And the reality is what? It doesn't. Never did. Never did. I think of Solomon. You're familiar with Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There's a time to be born, a time to die. You know, I see this in articles so many times, missing the whole point of what Solomon is saying there. If you look at Ecclesiastes 3, there are 14 positives and 14 negatives. And if you read the verses following, you know what Solomon is saying? Life is just a big zero. The positive and the negative, they just cancel each other out. There's nothing to life whatsoever. Read that. Read that. He goes out to, you know, we talk about these people who won the lottery. Solomon owned the country. If he lived today, he would be a multi-billionaire. He could go anywhere he wanted to go, do whatever he wanted to do, buy whatever he wanted to buy. And he did. And he was trying to grab hold of this happiness. He's trying to grab hold of this contentment that he wanted so badly. And he's keeping this journal as he's going through all of this. And at the end of his journey, you know what he writes in that journal? Life is without meaning. Life is without purpose. Wow. You read in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, that's the journal that he wrote, what he did. And I keep thinking, boy, if Solomon lived today, he would fit right in. He decided if he could get a bunch of money, he'd be happy. If he could just party and get drunk all the time, he'd be happy. If he could have sex with all the women he wanted to have sex with, he'd be happy. And life would be great. And he did that. How many wives did he have, you remember? 300. And 700 concubines. 1,000 different women that he had sexual relationship with. And at the end of all that journey, what does he write? Life is without meaning. It is without purpose. Until he gets to the very end of the book, chapter 12. The conclusion of the matter is this: fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole purpose of man. He finally grabbed hold of that. If you read Ecclesiastes, he'll talk about trying to grab the wind. Just can't do it. Jesus is traveling through Samaria, and he comes to the well of Sychar, one where Jacob, it's a well that Jacob had built, and we may not completely appreciate what this is because water is very scarce in that part of the country, and when you dug a well, it was deep, and they would have steps inside of that well that you would go down to bring the water out. It was quite an undertaking. So it's about noon that he is there at Sychar. His disciples are going to go find something to eat. And as he's sitting there, this woman comes. And we saw in the video, heard in the video of this woman's lifestyle, and I just want to kind of set the tone here. This sermon is not about the woman at the well. This sermon is about the man she meets there. Because that's what this story is about, not her. It's about him. So when we look at this woman, you tell me, what do you know about this woman from the text?
Samaritan.
Pardon me?
Samaritan.
She's a Samaritan, which means what? Anybody?
Outcast.
Yeah, she's a half-breed. She's an outcast. The Jews want nothing to do with her. Her home country wants nothing to do with her. She is the result of an intermarriage between the Jews and some foreign tribes. Therefore, on her. What else do we know about her?
Married before, but unmarried now.
She's married, who said that? Married before, how many times? 5. Okay? And now she's doing what? Living with this man. Okay? We'll get to that in just a moment. Anything else that we can think about this woman?
She knew about that.
She knew about God, sure. You know, when the Jews went back to rebuild the temple after the Babylonian captivity, the Samaritans saw them down there and wanted to come and help them. They're part Jew. Let's help us build the temple. And the Jews said, "Oh, you filthy people, you're not touching what we're doing." Okay? So they made their own temple. She made reference to Mount Gerizim. That's where the Samaritans built their temple, as opposed to the Jewish one in Jerusalem. Okay? So she knew about God, and she even has a pretty good question here. Anything else that we know about the woman? And then I just want to do in general terms what we know about this
I
lady.
wonder if she's kin to the Good Samaritan.
Probably in some way. You know, as far as ethnic group at least. Well, the first thing that we know about this woman is that she's scarred by sin. That here's this lady that has lived her life. I think that in the video, I like that video for 2 reasons. I think the gentleman that does Jesus does a very good job. But in this particular video, I think if you look at the face of the woman, you can see the weariness, everything that's happened in her life is right there in her face. She has been scarred by sin, beaten and bruised. And what she is doing then, she's trying to find some kind of solution to the hurt. And what's her solution? Same thing that I see us doing today. What's her solution? I'll find the right guy. If I can just find the right guy, then life is going to be fine. Okay? So she does, and each time as she gets married, she keeps thinking it's going to get better. It'll be different, it's going to get better. But it doesn't. Until finally, after 5 times, she decides what?
Just to live with him.
I'm not getting married anymore. Folks, I've dealt with people, and I have sympathy for them, that things, you know, sometimes marriages break up from the fault of one person or the other. There's a lot of different things involved. To make a judgment is really ridiculous to do that. But I know of people that have found someone that they want to marry, but they are scared to death of getting married. Not the person, nothing like that. They are just afraid of the whole idea. Okay? And maybe that's where this lady is at here, because there's an emptiness inside of her, and she's looking, trying to fill it some way, and can't figure out how. We do the same thing in our society. Over and over again. I've been here 30 years now, 33 years preaching altogether, and one of the things that I've learned about Watsika and people in Watsika is that the problems we have with drugs and alcohol are simply people trying to stop the hurt. I don't look at them and think they're these evil, wicked people. They hurt. So what do you do when you hurt? Anybody? You do whatever you have to do to stop the hurt. However, we're not smart enough to do the right thing. We look for a temporary fix. That's what she was looking for. She didn't want to be by herself, so she could just be with somebody, she'd be happy, and finds out what? Not necessarily so. So she is scarred by this sin, and she wants so badly to fill the emptiness there. There was a gentleman that I've known for years from the past, and Boy, he was a really, really great guy. I really, really liked this guy. I went to church with him, and he was a very knowledgeable young man. He had been through Bible college and everything. And one day, I heard that he was in the hospital, and I went to see him, and you know what he had done? He had drunk some weed killer. That this man was so addicted to alcohol. And I said to him, didn't you know what was in there? He said, yes. But I needed that alcohol so badly that I saw it said alcohol on the can, and I drank the weed killer. See, folks, what that's telling me is how desperate is this guy? How desperate are we looking for answers? And over again, when I talk with a lot of different people, they'll make fun of my faith. And I accept that. That's just the way it's going to happen. But the other side of that, I keep telling them, your way's not working. I look around and see what's going on in the world in which we live. Their choice isn't working. So don't make fun of me. Why are you coming to me for help? Why am I not coming to you for help? If you've got all these answers that you have. Behind every sin, there is a need that is trying to be fulfilled. Period. If you look at your own life, isn't that true? That there is a need that you have inside of you that you're trying to get satisfied because it hurts so badly. And what has happened is she's continued over and over again making those mistakes because there's this emptiness inside of her and she doesn't know how to get it filled. She is desperate to try anything. Anything. And we are looking for a person or a material thing to fill the hole that is in our hearts. And it can't do it. Never has been able to. Because that hole that we have in our hearts, folks, is God-shaped. He's the only one that's going to be able to fulfill that. He's the only one that can take care of it. And we keep trying our own ways, More sin is never a solution to sin. To sin more isn't going to solve the sinfulness that I'm guilty of or the problem that I'm in. I can think of a family that I've dealt with. There's been a divorce in the family. And even before the divorce was even put into court, he's got his own girlfriend now, and she's got her own boyfriend. How is that possibly going to solve the problem they have? And I sat with them at length saying, sin never solves the problem of sin. It doesn't. It doesn't. But this lady has tried that. And through all of this, basically, the society looks at this woman that she is a lost cause. She's damaged by sin. Therefore, she has been pushed to the side. Her life's a mess. She made some really bad decisions, and it seems like she's always in trouble with something. But you know what? Honestly, folks, we are not that different from this one. Now, we say that, but I'm not sure we believe that. I believe that somewhere in our hearts and minds, we think that we're way above this lady. We've never done stuff like that, but we have done a lot of stuff like this. That my sin may not be the same as her sin, but my sin is still sin. And we will try to dismiss that and try to lighten it. You know, that's why I think a lot of people criticize other people, because if I can throw the spotlight on them, it's not so badly on me. But it's still there. She's a lost cause. Folks, if she is a lost cause, why does Jesus stop to talk to her? He didn't have to go through Samaria, but if you'll read in chapter 4, it says in verse 4, now he had to go through Samaria. No, he didn't. Jews never went through Samaria. They went around Samaria to Perea and a place. Why did he have to go through Samaria? Anybody want to venture a guess? Louder. Meet this woman. That's why he's there. But she's a lost cause. See, I don't think the problem that we need to look at so much, and this is not what the sermon is on, is not so much that Jesus talked to this lady as much as it is the disciples didn't. I think that's the problem. Who do they think they were? When they come back, they wonder, what's Jesus doing talking to this woman? You answer it. What is Jesus doing talking to this woman? One reason only. Well, he's going to save her soul. That's what this is about. Why weren't the disciples doing the same? Good lesson to the church. The second thing we see about this lady is that she's lost in life. You ever felt that way? Just, wow. I get up every morning, but I really don't know why. I don't really look forward to anything. I just am depressed, discouraged, despondent, name all those words. And she is blinded by her sinfulness. She doesn't see. She doesn't understand. And what she has done is one of the great mistakes that people make. She has settled with this life. Not even going to try to change anything. She has just said, this is the way it's going to be. I don't know how many people I know that are like that. And it just boggles my mind. Why? Why would you just settle for this life? You know, my oldest son, Rich, and I have talked quite a bit. Rich is a manager of a pet boy store, doing quite well. He likes what he does, but he feels like there might be something else in his life that he would like to do. And you know what I said to him? Go for it. Well, Dad, I'm 39 years old, which is amazing since I'm only 45. And, well, I have a wife and a son. And, why, folks, do we just settle for some kind of life and call it, that's enough? I don't understand that. I don't understand that. And see, what we've done is that we have really given up on living because we've given up on hope. That we really don't have that hope, and that's where this lady is at. She's just existing. She's going through the motions. Isn't that a shame? She doesn't think about the past because it hurts too much. She doesn't think about the future because she doesn't think she has one. And we're just here each day, just going through. I keep reminding people, I think Colonel Sanders was almost 70 years old when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I could go through a lot of stories about people that were at their retirement ages when their life really started. A man that loses his job in a lumber yard when he is 50 years old. What's he going to do? He goes home to his wife and tells her that he's lost his job. And he decides that he's got some lumber out back, he needs to do something, and he builds a couple of small little houses for people. They became Howard Johnson. That was the beginning of that hotel chain. That he had lost his job. Instead of settling, he decided, I'm going to go do something. I'm going to let God work in my life. This lady decides not. All of us have had our heart broken at some time. And there are many of us decided we're not even going to hope anymore. Because if I hope, what happens? I just get disappointed again. What's the sense? I get tired of getting disappointed. So I'll just not hope. Well, how about a fresh start? And what would this lady say? I've tried that 6 times. And look where I'm at. Nothing has changed at all. Why would I even hope? But what happens is that she is crying out for help. See, we may not be able to hear it, but you know who hears it? Jesus does. He hears what is between the lines. He hears and understands what's in the heart of this person. She knows her life is a mess. She knows that she has been kicked out of just about everything that you could think of. She hadn't planned on her life being like this. This is not how she thought it would be turning out. But in the midst of all this, Jesus hears her crying out for help. If we would take a few moments, folks, during the course of our days or our weeks, and listen, that we're going to hear the same thing from a lot of people. Help. Help. And that's what she's doing. She's in need of this water that Jesus speaks of. Her soul is thirsty, and she can't find anything else to satisfy it. She needs what Jesus offers her. There was a true story about a ship that was sailing, and it was out in the ocean, and the wind went completely null, okay? Kind of like today, right? I saw several of you blown into church. I don't think you intended to come here, but I think that's the way the wind blew in. But these soldiers or sailors were sitting out there for days. They were dying of thirst because the ocean is full of what? Salt. You know what this picture is up there? It is where the Amazon River flows into the Atlantic Ocean. And for miles and miles, there is a stream of fresh water that cuts through the ocean. And when they called out for help, you know what the people told them? Lower your buckets into the water. It's right there in front of you. If we are empty in our lives and we're looking for some kind of solution to that problem, it's right there in front of you. And I think this lady begins to understand that, because the last thing we want to look at is complete in Christ. All at once things are different because of this man. Who is this Jesus? You know, we can see the progression through here in chapter 4 is that, first of all, he calls himself the Messiah. Then this lady says, here's someone, a prophet. He told me everything there is about me. And finally, the people in verse 42 say what? He is the Savior of the world. See the progression of the true identity of Jesus as it goes through this chapter. But Jesus wants us to know that we can be complete in him because, first of all, he is the one who confronts us. Okay? We are really, you know, a lot of people don't really want to spend too much time dealing with spiritual things. He's the one that makes us do that. He's the one that confronted her with her sin. I don't know how many other people think would even talk to this lady about that. But he confronts her. One of the most difficult things to do in the world, in your whole life, is to be confronted with your own sin. That's why we do everything we can not to be. We'd rather talk about somebody else's sin instead of our own. We'd rather talk about what the neighbors are doing than what I'm doing, or what I'm thinking, or the sin that's in my life. Jesus reveals to her that she is lost. She is lost. Folks, if I am selling vacuum sweepers and I come to your house and I want to sell you a vacuum sweeper, what's the first thing that I've got to do besides stick my foot in the door? What's the first thing I got to do?
Prove to you that it works.
Not that it works. You're in the right. Prove to you what?
You need it.
You need it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You need it. Okay? It seems to me many times when we talk to people or listen to people, we want them to come to church, but we've never asked them to deal with their sin. And that's what this is about. He confronts us. He is going to show this lady she's lost. And that's the key. That is the key. If you expect me to buy a vacuum sweeper, you're going to have to prove to me I need it. If you're going to want me to accept Jesus into my life, you're going to have to prove to me what? I need him. I need him. And unfortunately, most of the world doesn't think that they do. She didn't up to this point, did she? She was just going to keep fighting the same battle. And Jesus confronts her with that. Jesus brings her to the point that she realizes she's lost. She knew it. Deep down inside of her, she knew that she was lost, but he brings it to the surface now. Because most people, folks, they know they're guilty before God. Most people know that they're lost. They just don't deal with it. Let's just keep pushing it off to the side. Let's not deal with it. Kind of like the litter box with my cat down in the basement. I go down there and the door's closed. I see that it needs to be changed, but I can do that later. When I got more time, when I'm not so busy. Now, you laugh all you want to, but you know how many times I hear people make that remark to me? Oh, I'll deal with Jesus later, Joe. When my life, I got more time to do it. Not now, but later I will. Festus, Paul will come back when it's more convenient. But he brings us to the surface. She begins to realize that she is lost, and then Jesus is the one that convicts me of that sin. I thought it was quite interesting as we look at Isaiah chapter 55. Come, you are thirsty. The same invitation that Jesus is giving this woman, Isaiah gives in chapter 55. If you're thirsty, get something to drink. If you really want to quench this thirst, then get something to drink. Jesus does not sugarcoat her life. Okay? And again, I think that's a mistake that is made many times. We don't want to say they're really guilty of sin. We don't want to offend them. So we'll just kind of play it nice and easy here. Okay? I remember the first time that the preacher came and talked to me. By 20 minutes into our conversation, I was ready to boot him out of the house. You know what he did? He offended me. You know what he told me? That I was guilty of sin and my life was absolutely wrong in every aspect if I didn't have Jesus. But you know, if he didn't offend me, I would have never come to the point of accepting Christ. We have to be offended. I remember the Jewish leaders coming to Jesus' disciples, and his disciples coming to Jesus saying, Lord, you offended them. And if I can use a paraphrase, you know what Jesus' answer was? You ain't seen nothing yet. You think you're offended now. You wait till I rise from the dead. He offended her, but he had to. You know why he offended her? One reason only. Anybody? He loved her. He loved her. Explain to me how I can possibly allow a family member or a friend to go to hell forever and not mention Jesus to them and say that I love them. You explain to me, how can I do that? Anybody, see? He has to convict her of that. He shows her who she really is. Is she sinful? And the answer is yes. Is she hopeless?
No.
No. That's the key. That's what we've got to look at, is the fact that Jesus is going to convict her of that. You know, at a seminar one time, this man was speaking, and he walked over to a lady there that was a mom, and he said to her, asked her, which of your children do you love the most? And she just looked. Didn't say a word. He walked away, and he started talking again. He came back to her and looked down and said, which of your children do you love the most? And she just looked at him. And he said, that's not, I can't answer that. He did this 3 or 4 times. And finally, the 4th time, he came back and he looked at the lady and said, which one of your children do you love the most? Her answer was, the one that's hurting the most at the moment. Excellent answer. Who does Jesus love the most? The one that's hurting the most. The one that needs him the most is going to have his attention. He convicts this lady. She is scared. She's excited for the first time in a long time. Why? What has Jesus done here? Anybody? Pardon me? Gave her hope. Absolutely. That's what we need. Honestly, folks, isn't it the same for us? Isn't that hope what we need? Isn't it that we know that there's something better beyond what we're going through right now? That there's a God that's greater than our circumstances? Isn't that what we need? That hope. And that's what Jesus gives this woman. For the first time in a long time, she has really started to live. Because for the first time, she has come to believe in Jesus, the Messiah. You know, Ken Henderson's a good friend of mine from Team Nation USA. And several years ago in camp, and I've not been able to find this song anywhere else, but he got up, I'm trying to think of the instrument that he plays. Isn't that terrible? It's not a guitar. Not Darsenel. What? No. It's something like that. Dulcimer. Dulcimer, okay. There was nothing else in my brain was bouncing around there at it. A dulcimer. But the song is called, He Looked Beyond My Faults on My Knee. Unbelievable song. And I just listen to that over and over again. That he sees the wrong that this lady is committing, and then he speaks about the need that's behind that. And he convicts her of her sin. And then he wants us to know that he is the one who converts us. He's the one that's going to change us. You know, I talk about all these products that's going to change your life. Nobody or nothing is going to change your life except this Jesus. He is the one that's going to make this radical change in our lives if we'll allow him to do that. Now, we can sit in church and be religious forever and never come in contact with Jesus. That we can have all the right beliefs, I guess. I think that's the Pharisees, was it not? They had all the right beliefs. They were the spiritual heroes of that age and time, Until Jesus stands there and says, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the Pharisees, you won't even enter the kingdom. He wants to convert us. That's what he's going to do. What does that mean? To change me from the inside. To change my heart. To change who I am and what I am. 2 Corinthians 5, we looked at that last week. If anyone be in Christ, they are a new creation. The old have passed away. Behold, all things are new. Behold what? All things are new. What hope is there for this woman? She has lived a sinful life. She's been married 5 times. She's now in an immoral relationship with some man in town there. What hope is there for her? And the answer, he is standing right in front of her. He is right there. The hope that she has is found in this person. Her heart is aching. Her heart is breaking, but because of Jesus, she believes again. She has hope again. That life is worth it again and again. Jesus can and will save anyone who desires to be saved. Jesus can and will save anyone who desires to be saved. I don't believe chapter 3 and chapter 4 are found in the Gospel of John by mistake. Chapter 3 deals with a man named Nicodemus that was the highest religious leader in Israel. And what do we learn about him? He needed to be converted. And here's this woman, the worst, and what do we find out about her? She needs to be converted. Folks, no one is too good that they don't need Christ. No one is too bad that they can't get to him to accept the salvation that he has before us. This is a picture of the St. Louis City Zoo. No, I did not live there, Don. Okay? I knew you were going to say something about that. What they did a few years ago is that they opened up. How many of you have been to St. Louis Zoo lately? Big cat country? Susie, big cat country? Okay. What they did is they took the lions and tigers out of the cages and they put them out in this area called Big Cat Country. And they have the fences and stuff to protect anyone. But when it first opened up, a lady named Kathy Chappelle and a friend took their kids there. And Kathy has 2 preschool kids that were running around there. And they went to see the lions and the tigers. And when they started up the skywalk where you can walk over them and you can look down upon them and see them. And the stroller that her friend was using, the blanket of her baby got wrapped up in a wheel. So Kathy got down to take care of that, to unwrap it, and when she looked up, the kids were gone. And she looked, and there was a hole in the fence that these kids had walked through. And they're standing on these rocks out there with the lions and the tigers. What are you going to do? She thought, if I yell at them, it's going to startle them. They may slide off that rock, right? And all these lions are just walking around. Kathy, knowing her children very well, went over, got down on her knees, and called out to her children, come and give Mommy a hug. And they walked back through the hole in the fence to their mom in safety. What Jesus does here to this woman is simply that. Come and give me a hug. Come and just let me show my love to you. That's what he does. But then, Jesus said, I am the one that completes you. There's the gist of this. How many people do you know of that became Christian at one time but for some reason have strayed away? That some reason didn't continue to grow in their faith? And Jesus says here that I'm the one that completes you. John 10:10, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. Abundant life. I think the King James says have it abundantly. Jesus did not come for us to believe in him and just have this existence, a religious existence. He came so that we might have life and have the greatest life that we possibly can have. In him. In him. He completes us. That Jesus brings healing to our lives. Jesus brings hope to our lives. He brings all those things that we need to our lives. And for the first time, among brokenhearted people, there's hope. There is hope. That Jesus gives this living water, and it changes everything. It satisfies the thirst that we have. It takes care of the desires that are unmet as far as our world's concerned. And for the first time, there's this hope that comes on this lady's heart. Because you know what Jesus is saying to her? The time that he spent with her, the conversation that he had with her, you know what he is saying to her? You're not worthless. You're not a big zero. You're a human being. A human being. Is that not what we want in our lives? That we have purpose in life? That we have peace in life? We have hope and we're significant some way in life? That our life is going to count for something? Folks, I would tell you the only place that is going to have any significance is found in Christ. In Christ alone. This sinful woman, is the focus on her or is it on the transforming Christ? See, that's what this story is about. It's about him. It's the invitation of Jesus to see who he really is. It's the invitation of Jesus to allow him into the areas where our life is broken. And who is this man? They know. He is the Savior of the world. That living water that frees us from sin's condemnation, from its bondage. Dr. Neil Winters was a surgeon in Chicago many, many years ago. One of the best there ever was, not only in Chicago, but the whole region. And one night, about 1 o'clock in the morning, he gets a phone call that he needs to go to the hospital. There's been a little boy involved in a very terrible accident, and he needs surgery right away. And Dr. Winters had been up all day and all night, and he asked if there is somebody else that could go do this. And they said, no, we need the best. We need you to come and help this young boy. So he decides that he'll go, and he looks to see what's the quickest way to get there, because they say within 30 or 40 minutes it's going to be too late. He needs to be there now. So he looks and he sees this way that he can get through the city of Chicago and get to the hospital. And he is just about to get through a less than desirable part of town. And as he stops at a stoplight, someone crashes through the window, the driver's side of his car, grabs him by the throat and drags him out of his car and steals his car. So he begins to look around. Where does he go? It took him 45 minutes to find a payphone, to call a taxi to come and get him, to bring him to the hospital to do the surgery on this young boy. When he gets to the hospital, as he walks in the door, the shakes of the heads of the nurses tell him it's too late. It's too late. The boy has passed away. Said the boy's father is in the chapel if you would like just to speak to him for a moment. So Dr. Winters walked into the chapel and looked, and here's the man that stole his car. The one person that could have saved, he kept him from getting there to save his son's life. Folks, there's one person that can save us. I pray that we would not keep him away. I pray that we would allow him to come into our lives and do exactly what he did for this woman to well, because we need him just like she did. We need him as much or more. That he is the one that can complete us. That we would allow him to confront us, to convict us, to convert us, to complete us. That we might truly know among all other things that he is the Savior of the world. I'll have Joe come up if she would, and I think it's kind of interesting because the invitation hymn is Hallelujah Jesus, what we just talked about, and the closing psalm is There's Something About That Name of Jesus. So we're going to stand together, we're going to sing our invitation, our dedication song. If there's a decision that you need to make as far as Christ is concerned, we offer you that opportunity now as we stand and as we sing.